Hello growers, my name's Chris and we are here again at the Aqualabs greenhouse to discuss the Shogun range with Simon and Callie.
Okay, so again, this started off as a trend several years ago, and it was actually when we kind of had aquaculture. We had a lot of customers coming into the shop kind of asking for flowering stimulators, something that they want bigger flowers, better yields, better quality, but something that was a little bit different to kind of the traditional products, the PK products, things like that. Something that was more a kind of a metabolic booster, something that stimulated the cells rather than steering it through nutrition or something like that. So we kind of set about that. I mean, I think that was probably longer, wasn't it, to develop that one?
Yeah.
We came across the active compound of interest that we wanted to use, compound called tricantanol. Used throughout Asia, it's used in food production, treats thousands of hectares, really well used, in the food chain. It's a potent stimulant. So we kind of were really fascinated with that one, but the trouble with it is that it's really doesn't like water, be insoluble. It's kind of what we call a long chain alcohol. So really the test was to get it into something that people could put into their tanks as a root drench. So we spent quite a lot of time getting the formulation correct, and we managed to emulsify it into a solution so you can now use it as a root drench. But as well as that, we wanted to put more kind of active compounds in there as well. But again, we wanted to keep it so we were stimulating the plant through a stimulatory process rather than steering it through nutrition or stress it in some way via that. So we looked at other compounds, cytokines, auxins, betaines, lots of other things that would help stimulate growth. And after probably it did take about 4 years or so, we came across a formulation that we were really happy with. And what we did at first is we had a kind of a white bottle trial product, didn't we? And that was the great advantage of having like a retail presence, is that you could actually test your products out with customers. So we did that for probably about a year or so, didn't we? Fine-tuned it again. So when we were actually ready and it was finished finally, we were really happy with the kind of feedback that we had from customers as well. So and that's it. That's the story, really.
So the Sumo Boost product contains tricantanol. A few of our viewers will be aware that is a PGR. Can you convince some people who would not like to use them why it's safe and why it differs from some of the more synthetic PGRs on the market?
Yeah, can do that.
Well, yeah, PGRs really are anything that will alter the plant's growth. So there's a number of different ones, and as you mentioned, there's synthetic ones, and then there's natural plant-derived ones. Tricantanol is actually found on all plants, so it's found on the leaves of plants, on the waxy cuticles. The particular one is alfalfa. You find a lot of it on there. That has a very high concentration of them on its leaves, and it's found, as I say, around the stomata. So what we want to do is, rather than going to one of the big chemical companies, Bayer or somewhere like that, we decided to look for something that was naturally derived, something that the plant can then utilise itself, because that's what our ethos is, not to be using the heavy synthetics that have been chemically processed very heavily and that can go into the food chain. And we did a lot of research around looking at the different kind of PGRs. Now, tricantanol has been used, and many trials have been done on it to actually look at the movement of tricantanol in plants and residues left, and there's no residues left with this. And the trials have shown some really impressive results, some saying up to 30% increases in yield.
It's already used throughout the world in food production, so it's actually used, it's actually present in the food producing part.
So it does contain PGRs, tricantanol, but they are naturally occurring in plants anyway. There's a chance that it will already be on the surface of your plants regardless of whether you use it or not. So it's completely safe to use.
It is. It's a natural component of plant waxes. Okay, so you find it in there. The plant actually produces it itself. But if it's applied as a root drench or as a foliar application as well, it has this kind of real stimulating effect in the plant. And it even stimulates what we call secondary metabolite production, which are thousands of compounds that plants use primarily for defence, to defend themselves from the external environment.
Will the second metabolites increase the oil production within oil-based plants?
Yes, definitely. So yes, oil production, resin production in plants. Plants produce them both on the surface, but also internally as well. Again, they're used for defence.
And you have created it so it can be, as you mentioned, applied as a root drench or a foliar feed. Do you guys have a preference for how it performs a little bit better plant-wise?
We do both. Primarily in food production, it's used as a foliar application. I personally would advocate both methods. There's certainly nothing there's no detriment in doing that at all. So I think if you feel comfortable with foliar application, which I think people should do, then I would absolutely back both ways with that.
Are there any other of your range that you would rather people apply as foliar rather than root drench?
Again, you can spray some of. I think
CalMag. Yeah, a few people would rather use a CalMag supplement as a foliar to get it in quick.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, leaves absorb 5 times as much nutrient as the root zone because it's at the point. Now, calcium itself is quite difficult for the plant to move it around. Once it's taken up by the plant, actually getting it to where it's needed is quite difficult in the plant because it moves through a different pathway. By spraying it onto the leaves, it's there where it's needed, so it can use it straight away and utilise it to actually strengthen the cells. Again, it's just making sure you haven't got that light intensity which could cause the burning. Can't stress that enough because the amount of people who come back and will say, damaged all my plants just through spraying.
Because the environmental factors.
Yes.
One of the latest products in the Shogun range is the geisha foliar, which has taken the country by storm. Do you fancy giving us a little bit of information about it?
Yes, yeah. Again, we were constantly asked for an RTU-based foliar product. So we came up with geisha. Essentially, what it is, it contains kind of primary and it contains all the primary nutrients. Okay, it contains trace elements as well, and it also contains a naturally derived compound that has like a synergistic effect with tricanthanide. Those combinations together kind of leads to quite a powerful kind of vegetative response. Also, that's kind of carried on into the flowering cycle as well. Sometimes, especially during the vegetative phase, how roots work respiration can be quite low sometimes. That's also to do with how the plants uptake phosphate in the early stages as well. So it's particularly effective when you've kind of planted out and your plants have gone into that, they've also hardened into the growing environment and you get that exponential kind of vegetative growth. That's an ideal time to use geisha. You'll get a real kind of powerful vegetative response at that point.
When you've potted on and the plants settle down into its...
Yeah. So as I say, it's important that you allow the plant to harden off first. Plants do take adjustments when you put them from kind of propagation environments, high humidities, fluorescent or kind of less intense light. And when you go into your growing environment where you've got ventilation fans coming on, the lighting intensity is much higher, humidities tend to be a little bit lower. So the plant sometimes can kind of stress out a little bit, and I think by then applying lots of nutrients, all you're doing is kind of adding to that stress. So just make sure that the plant is kind of adjusted and hardened off first. But at that point, yes, every 2 weeks, an application of geisha, you'll see, within 24 hours, you will see a visual response.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of our growers have noticed within such a short period of time of applying it, it's bringing back visual results.
Yeah.
And your Katana Roots range, would you like to explain a little bit how that works?
Well, yeah, that's, again, that's based on seaweeds. So it's a seaweed extract that we're using. which contains a lot of these naturally derived auxins and things like. One of the synthetic auxins that are out there is something called IBA, which is indiobuleic acid, which you usually find in your cutting gels and your cutting powders. And this will encourage the development of roots a lot quicker. Now, seaweeds have been found to have these in quite naturally. So what we did is we based the actual formulation around seaweeds, and these also have carbohydrates in there as well, that the plant can then utilise and turn into other kind of sugars within the plant. We also, within that as well, we did a lot of peer-reviewed journal searching, so that the actual hard science was already there by people who weren't going to make money on it. We decided to look where the scientific research had been done by universities around the world. There's a particular ratio of 2 vitamins that we use together, that when used in conjunction, they, in this particular ratio that we did in here, encourage rooting a lot faster, and that's striking to occur a lot faster than it normally would without them in there. And that again improves the health of the plant, which a stronger plant will give you better yields at the end of the day. Healthier plants tend to perform better. Well, not tend to, they do perform better. So again, that's what we base that one on.
But I think with that particular seaweed extract as well that we've used in there, it's quite a novel extraction process they use. So rather than using kind of chemicals to produce a seaweed extract, they actually use this, it's like a special cell lysis method where they burst the cell and they then collect the active compounds from that process. What it does by doing that, it keeps a much higher profile of auxins actually within the concentrate, and auxins are extremely effective at initiating root growth.